to the Midium.
Welcome to the Midium. My name is Cam, and I am the co-owner of the Midium, along with my wife, Erin. At our carefully curated boutique, we specialize in synthesizers, drum machines, effects units, and accessories that mean something more. One such instrument is this one right here. You can see a little part of it here, and it is the Expressive E Osmose. While at NAMM in 2023, we had a chance to spend some time with Christopher Hans of Expressive E, where we learned a little bit about the history of Expressive E, as well as the genesis and the reason for being of the Osmose. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. So, stick around and thank you for joining us. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today at NAMM 2023. We're here with Christopher from Expressive E. It's a pleasure to have him here with us. We're going to talk about the history of Expressive E, the reason why the company exists, and we're going to talk about the Osmose, of course. So, Christoph, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please tell us a little bit about the history of Expressive E. How did you all get started and why?
Expressive E actually emerged like 10 years ago, something like that, 9 years ago, at a university project where some friends were studying in old vintage electronic instruments. One of the first instruments that actually existed electronically, the onde Martenot, was an invention by Maurice Martenot, a French cellist and telegrapher, who wanted to use the new ways of generating sound through electrics to create a musical instrument that could actually be used as an addition to the orchestra. So the original idea was to have an instrument, for example, that can hold a breath endlessly, play an endlessly long note while changing the timbre and the volume, which you couldn't do as a brass player, for example.
Right.
And these were obviously built by hand back in the day. There were several iterations of it throughout the years, but there are cool orchestral works by Messiaen, if I pronounce it well, who actually featured this instrument. It's pretty cool. You could check it out on your favorite streaming platform. But back to Expressive E, this instrument had the particular feature that was called a touche d'intensité, a button where you could change the timbre and the volume of the sound that you play over time. So what we would do with the right hand knob, you would play the pitch. Let's say like a violinist does, or a cellist with his left hand.
Okay.
And the actual sound is triggered with a little button which had a bag of concrete underneath it, which would control the resistance. And you could play fast attacks, you could play slow attacks with it. You could change the overall timbre of the sound in a way that was much more natural and organically to the sound, to the ears and to the interactivity of the player than it is with nowadays keypads where you only press like note on, note off, and perhaps you can turn it up. So this little button then gave the inspiration for our first hardware product, which is the Touché, where we try to bring this expressivity, this intimate feel, this interaction with an electronic instrument into nowadays sound technology. So the Touché does feature MIDI connectivity, which obviously the onde Martenot didn't do in 1920.
It was a little before
or
its
whatever.
time.
Yeah, it has control voltage outputs. So the idea is to offer just a new gateway to experience, to rediscover all the synthesizers, be it software or hardware that you already have in your studio. So the general idea behind Expressive E, the company, is enable a better communication, better interactivity of the people and the instruments that they use in an electronic context. And building upon this Touché hardware controller, we then, a few years later, and lots of research and development, later we came up with a keyboard-driven instrument where basically every single note of the keypad offers these interactions. But we're going to see that in a dedicated video, a dedicated section of the video, I guess. And
Absolutely.
This is called the Osmose, and which is like the big thing
That's exciting.
that we're presenting here in NAMM for the first time.
Yeah, the Osmose almost seems like it's like a child of the concept of the touche, because of that movement on so many different dimensions that you get with the touche to interact with the sound, and now you kind of get that spread across an entire keyboard. It's a fascinating instrument.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And so the other question that was unfortunately lost because of the little technical glitch was we were asking about the renewable materials that were being used in the Osmose's design. So tell us more, please, about the use of renewable materials in the Osmose and why you chose to take that approach.
Yeah, so when we built the hardware design for the Osmose and all the mechanics, we were thinking about ways how to, within the limits of when you're creating a new instrument that is shipping from China across the whole world and so on, how we could avoid waste over time and how we could make it repairable as much as possible.
Sure.
So first off, we're using a certain percentage of recycled plastics within the machine. Also, the chassis, for example, or all the parts, they are not painted additionally, which makes them recyclable themselves again. And then the whole machine can be disassembled just with two commonly available screwdrivers, and the parts can be changed individually. So in case the keypad, it falls off your touring truck, and there are some keys that are broken, you can just change these keys. And it even goes down to the boards, to the electronical boards that there. For example, there's one sensor board for each octave, so you only need to change this board of this octave. It's kind of the modular approach. And there's no glue at all involved in the instruments. You can disassemble it completely and build it together without you being able to notice whether it was disassembled or not. And this also allows us, just from an economically point of view, if something goes wrong in the next years, we're always able to just replace single parts. Perhaps even if the customer lives in a very far away region, just ship the part itself and let him, if he's willing to do so, exchange the part himself, because it's really easy to do actually from how the whole instrument is laid out in a kind of stacked way, just with screws, instead of like nowadays smartphones or tablets where everything is glued together, so you have to use a heat gun to make the glue dissolve a little bit and then go with a razor blade around it without breaking the screen, stuff like this. All this is, it's the contrary here with our product, so we're pretty happy that this worked out. Yeah.
Do you see that design philosophy translating to future projects, future products and instruments as well?
We always try to stick to that design philosophy, but it's also a very particular project that we're making. So we have always been into mechanics. So actually the people who started the company, they were mechanical engineers. So for us it's all about offering this this nice feeling of the instrument themselves. So we really think of, you have to have something that you can dig in with your fingers, that you can feel, instead of just gliding around a touchpad or something like this.
Sure.
So it's pretty specific for us. Obviously, when you're producing like a regular stage piano, you can always rely on external suppliers, and they only going to deliver the keyboard as one, as one keypad, and then when one key breaks, normally you would have to throw away everything.
Sure.
But since we do the keypad ourselves, so we have the control of the whole process, which was, by the way, the most difficult part of developing the Osmose, by the way, then we can put thought into these kinds of things, and of course we're going to continue to do this.
What was your role on the project for the Osmose in general?
I started out like 4 or 5 years ago. First I did distribution in Germany actually, so going to the different dealers, and then I started taking over more responsibility for communication with customers. What I'm doing right now is the customer support. So if you're writing in if you're opening a help ticket on the website, it's always going to be me responding. And now, very fresh, a new colleague. But I'm basically the one-eyed man in the land of the blind when it comes to the English language, which is kind of a big advantage with French companies.
Oh, come on, no, you're great.
No.
You're great.
No, but in reality, I do lots of the English communication and the customer communication. Been organizing, keeping people updated, because there was this crowdfunding campaign about the Osmose,
Yeah.
where you're on the waiting list, when things are going to ship, and so on. And I was also beta testing with the Osmose and telling them, this is feeling nice, this is not feeling nice. We did lots of prototyping to get the feeling right of the augmented keyboard action that the guys invented, so I'm happy that I was involved there as well, so also on the musical technical side. And I'm doing now I'm doing product demos as well.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think the Osmose is going to do for artists from now on? What's the impact going to be, or the main benefits? What are they going to be for artists who want to use it?
We hope that it's going to be a big inspiration for them, because we really think that the way how it interacts with you, or how you can interact with the instrument, is something new, but at the same time something that people who are playing keyboard-driven instruments have wanted for already over 100 years. So there are really old videos where pianists, they try to play, or they don't try to play, but you can see that they're playing a Chopin piece or whatever, and they wiggle the keys as if they would expect the piano to do a vibrato.
Interesting.
So just this joy of playing and having this feeling of being in the flow with the instrument and forgetting the time, forgetting things around you, is something that we can already tell lots of people feedback to us that they have this experience. So we're really excited to see what will be coming, what kind of new, or not new music, but generally more expressive music, or more nuanced, or more organic music can perhaps come from that.
That's fantastic, my friend. All right, so something that's always intrigued me about the Expressive E brand is the name. So we understand expressive, but what's the E?
This one's got a legal background.
Okay.
So when you're founding a car company, you can't name it car.
Yeah.
So there are some general adjectives or nouns that you can't use to actually found a firm. So we had to add another E. That's it. And then there's also the SAS, which is like limited or whatever, the form of how you found the company when you're in France. By the way, all this I told you before was happening in France, in case I didn't mention.
Yeah.
So that's the reason behind the E.
Yeah, considering the fact that a lot of electronics these days are made so that it's very difficult to repair something, or you're kind of forced into a corner where you have to replace the entire thing or huge parts of the product. It's really nice to hear that you all have taken this more socially responsible approach, and it's a leadership position almost that you are taking in this regard, because I don't hear of a lot of companies doing this in our industry. That's what was the motivation for that? Like, why did you decide to take that step? Because that's not easy. That's the development of Osmose, something so new, is challenging enough, but then you add that extra element. Why did you take that extra step? Why is that important to you?
You would have to ask the people who actually did the decisions. I guess they have some idealism in them, and just some of them are fathers, I know, or became in the meantime, so that perhaps plays a role.
So leaving the world better than how they found it for future generations.
Well, I mean, we don't want to be the angels here. I mean, you have to confront, obviously. I mean, we're flying here to the NAMM show. We are producing new stuff, so it comes at a certain cost. But within the means that you have, we at least try to do something in a better way. But at the same time, also just economically speaking, we really want to encourage people when it comes to after-sales services. If something fails, that we have the ability to actually, if someone is able and willing to do it, to just tell them, hey, okay, you got this specific problem, okay, we're sorry that your motherboard failed after 4 years or whatever, but you don't have to ship it like back to New York City from LA, but we're just going to send you that part, you can easily replace it yourself, we're not going to let you down if you do it and you got problems with it, so we try to not have like a super strict warranty policy where if you open up the thing,
sure,
we're not gonna respond to your emails anymore and say, your fault.
Right.
I don't want to encourage anyone to tamper too much with, but just what I'm trying to say is there's some philosophy of after-sales services involved as well, because we don't like the fact that let's talk about mobile phones, for example. I mean, I just try to repair my Microsoft laptop Surface Book 2, and it was kind of hard with the glue, and you had to use a heat gun.
Oh,
although I'm a
gosh,
big
yes.
Microsoft fan, but that was not the best repairability index, I have to
I
admit.
could imagine. I could imagine.
So we try to avoid this stuff from happening.
So, Christopher, now we've arrived at this part of our interview
Yes.
where you're going to show us the Osmose in action. So, yeah, if you could please walk us through what you had in mind for showing us, please.
Of course. So the Osmose, first of all, it's a standalone polyphonic digital synthesizer. So it comes with all the sounds that you're gonna hear included within the machine. It's not only a controller. And the interesting aspect about it, as I mentioned earlier, is that you have lots of interaction with the key mechanics itself. So what you can do on the key is already triggering a note by only barely pressing it down. And you have continuous control over the loudness or the timbre of the note in a first pressure dimension. So you can do both slow attacks and you can do fast attacks. And then once you have pressed the note, there's a second dimension to it, which is the keys aftertouch, which also offers several millimeters of additional key travel, so you can really dig into it. And all of this is on a independent per note basis.
Okay.
So I could play a chord, let's say like this, and highlight individual voices of this chord, which is something that wouldn't be possible without this technology called MIDI Polyphonic Expression. And when it comes to interactions with the keys, one thing that is particularly interesting as well, and the first on a regular piano keyboard layout, is that every note actually is also able to be moved sideways for vibrato or for either vibrato and pitch bend.
And can you set in the Osmose how much of an effect on vibrato the lateral movements are going to have?
For sure, this is one important aspect actually, because obviously with a new instrument like that, there's always a learning curve to it. So it was important for us that you can actually adapt the sensitivity of the instrument, of the sound. So in theory, depending on what you're achieving to do, you could even set the pitch bend range to a whole octave.
Sure.
But that kind of becomes, when you're playing lots of notes at the same time, uncontrollable.
Sure.
So in this case, perhaps I would go with a much, much smaller pitch bend range, but at the same time increase the sensitivity, which would then allow you to make sure that then you're playing like this, you never get a wrong note in the sense that it actually goes off pitch, but still you're able to introduce some organic little tonal variations just to have that that warmth and that organic sound of the slight detuning between voices.
Absolutely, it's like the synth feels more alive that way.
Yeah. So this was just an important aspect for us, that directly on the instrument you could always, depending on which situation you're in, dial in a sensitivity that makes sense for the specific sound that you're playing at this moment.
I could almost imagine what would have happened if Vangelis could have played this.
He did, indeed. It was a very specific experience. I wasn't there, but members of the team, it was really a delight.
I'm sure he loved it.
The interaction or things feel natural. So the things that you expect to hear match the things, how you move, the gestures that you put up on the instrument. They have a kind of a equivalence in the sound, which is something that you have with, let's say, an acoustic guitar, or most naturally with your own voice, or with any kind of other acoustic instrument. So
Absolutely.
This is really something that we try to put in front when it comes to the augmented keyboard action on the Osmose keyboard.
You know, one of the things that we know that Expressive E did during the development of the Osmose is that you also worked with our friend Christophe at La Voix du Luthier.
Well, yes.
How did that partnership work out? What was the what was the involvement of La Voix du Luthier in this project?
So actually, the big partner or the involvement in the project was actually Haken Audio.
And Haken.
That they offer the sound engine. So we specialize in the mechanical part of it and in the operating system part of it, how to enable the user to tweak the sounds. And Haken Audio are the guys who actually delivered the Egan Matrix modular digital polyphonic synthesizer that offers all these different synthesis types, like subtractive synthesis, additive synthesis, frequency modulation, physical modeling, like filter banks and stuff. So this was the cooperation for this, but Christophe Duquesne from La Voix du Luthier, he is working a lot with Haken Audio. He's part of the team, actually.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so he worked through Haken.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got you. Yeah. No, it's fascinating to see the synergy of these different groups and companies come together to work with you and help make this wonderful instrument possible. You know, Christophe Duquesne brings such a wonderful way of viewing the world and viewing music and the reproduction of audio to any project he gets into.
Yes, he did lots of the internal factory sounds, actually. So the Egan Matrix is named after Edmund Egan, actually. So he develops all the algorithms, so the synthesizer itself. Also did sound design, obviously, so he's the mastermind. But Lippold Haken is the guy who designs the electrical board, the proprietary DSP that this is running on.
Amazing.
And
Wow.
he is especially especially interesting because Lippold is the guy who started with these, who brought out the fingerboard continuums, who was working on the interface, on the playing interface. So they have these fingerboard continuum instruments where you have a neoprene surface, this reddish, blackish neoprene surface. So back in the day, where the Egan Matrix didn't exist yet, he worked with other sound engines, but this was kind of the match. So Edmund Egan had the synthesizer, or they developed the synthesizer that would work so well together, whereas Lippold Haken was more on the playing interface and sending out all the stream of detailed gesture data side of things. So he came up with different concepts of I actually read some of the scientific papers, although I don't comprehend much of it, but it's really interesting how he experimented with different sensor technologies, with different materials. And so it was very cool for us to have our concept when we showed it to Haken Audio, to have it accepted by them, because they thought that this, although it's a keypad segmented surface interface, it does live up to the nuances that they have with their continuum fingerboards. With the
Fantastic.
So it was a pretty interesting collaboration with them.